What's up? What's up, my financially intentional people? You're gonna love this episode because I got my homie in the house, and we are gonna talk about investing, one of my favorite subjects. And because I'm financially intentional, he's financially present. We are going to talk about all of the
Yes.
good things. So, what's up? What's up? What's up?
My name is Mawuli Vodi. Hey, audience. Hope everybody's doing well wherever you're listening from. And a little bit about me. Born and raised in Hyattsville, Maryland, to two wonderful Ghanaian parents, and they worked extremely hard. Hard enough to the point where money was scarce.
Yeah.
My parents did whatever job they could to make sure that they had two cars in the house. So my dad, he was a taxi driver. He was a car salesman. And at some point, he even worked at a driving school. And eventually, someone nudged him and said, "Hey, why don't you do this on your own?" And they managed to build a business over the course of that time. So led a driving school for almost 20 years. And I think that's what really showed us a lot of work ethic and helped us get in and out of college. And I always was curious about investing and how to make money without having to do the actual work. So that led me to being a stockbroker. And
Yeah.
that's part of my history right now.
So a stockbroker, right? Like well, every time until like recently, I thought about investing. I always
Mhm.
had this image in my head of trading places with Eddie Murphy
I
on
love
the
that
stock
movie.
floor with the little tickets in his hand. But you are an actual stockbroker. What did
Yes.
that look like?
It was very interesting because I had a similar idea. I'm like, this is going to be like a frenzy and people yelling all the time, and you have to have multiple phones in your hand or up against your face, like in the movies. And I would say it was probably like 10% of that. I worked more on the personal finance side. So with the consumer finance, so
Hmm.
helping individuals with their individual accounts and their situation. So I worked for a company. They're no longer in business. They got bought by another company that's bigger than that company got bought. That's just how the industry works. But
Yeah.
there was 500 branches nationwide, and I worked in one of the branches. Happened to be the largest one in Virginia at the time, and I started off as an intern. I didn't know anything. I just kept asking questions or just kept listening and answering phone calls. I was heavy on the customer service side. And it happened to be in 2008 during the economic downturn. So it was
Mm.
literally the most exciting time to be a stockbroker. Any other time is to me boring.
It was exciting because it was crazy.
Yes, yes. And I specifically just wish I knew a little bit more about investing. And like even just a few months before I started an internship, because it would have changed everything for me. And that's why I do what I do to make sure other people know before it's too late or before they miss an opportunity.
So, did this internship spark your interest in investing, or did you start in college? Did you have a finance major, or where did that start?
I was an economics major, and during my senior year is when I started this internship. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do this full time. So I had a 5 year plan. And I stayed there for almost 10 years. Yeah, I enjoyed talking with the clients and learning about investing strategies, learning from other people's experiences and their failures too, because I basically had a front row seat. And so I was interested in the stock market before the internship, but I didn't quite know anything. I was curious. I could have opened up an account, but then what better way to learn than to just just work with everyone?
So, from coming from parents that didn't know anything about investing, therefore didn't pass down that knowledge to you, what were some of your big aha moments like working for this investment firm?
That's a great question because I felt like everything was a frenzy. And as I kept learning more, I just was hungry. And I would say the biggest aha moment was I want to say that first year I was confused about options trading, what that meant. And when I finally started getting licensed to be a stockbroker, it was like that's when it officially clicked. And I was like, oh my goodness, this makes complete sense. We're talking about a bet that's based off of another bet and the fluctuation of the stock market. And I was like, if you can reduce things down into just something simplistic that you can understand, it changes everything. It doesn't seem as hard or like this. It's not this big old I don't know, something that just gets away from you. It's attainable, basically.
Listen, options to me is still confusing. I know how to trade options, but I still be confused. I'm like what? Put never mind. Like, I stick to way simpler investing strategies,
Yeah.
but for you to be able to make it more digestible for you, I feel is key, and that's what like I found about investing is that for a lot of people, it's a super complicated thing. Like I
Yeah.
said, before I really started investing, I thought I was going to have to be out there on the floor. I had pay somebody to be out there on the floor trading these tickets around, but it's not really that hard.
No.
I also thought if I really needed to get good at investing, I'd have to take the same approach I took to getting my master's degree. I had to study these
Mm,
books and do all these things. And it's not really that hard. It's just that the information is oftentimes gate kept,
yes.
oftentimes by people so that you have to use them to invest. And that's not something that I learned until I got into this personal finance space when I was just like,
Mm,
wait a minute,
yeah.
it ain't that hard.
At all. At all. I told one person, I said, if you could order something off of Amazon, you could trade in the stock market. Because sometimes it takes longer to place a order on Amazon than it does to buy a stock.
If you can open an Instagram account, you can open an investment account, okay? And all these
Yeah.
girls that love to do the tick to the talks, like if you can create a TikTok or a reel, you
Right.
definitely can set up your
Yes.
investment account because that is way, way harder.
I wholeheartedly agree. As somebody who struggles to get back into his Facebook account, I'm like, wait, you got to do 3-factor authentication, and it's hard to get in and out of Facebook. And if you have a business account, a personal account, you already know.
Let's not go there because listen, I'll be so mad at Facebook, and it's crazy
Thank
because
you.
I work in the Bay Area, and so most of my patients work for Facebook. So I'll be like, homie,
Mm,
in the back end, I'm gonna need you to
ah,
do X, Y, and Z because this ain't working.
oh man.
And they know,
Oh
they
my
like,
goodness.
we know.
It's something else. But yeah,
Yeah, it's
investing is
so
much. It's very attainable once you like get past that basic information. Like it was like this weird separation, and I feel like so many more people need to be in the space and comfortable in this space. So that's what I like to encourage people to do.
yeah. So when did you get comfortable enough, number one, to start investing for yourself and then to start helping other people learn about investing?
That was actually part of the job. I remember the manager that day. He was like, "Oh, you work here now. You need to open up an account." And I was
Good.
like, okay. I was like, I don't really have much. He said, you need to open up an account. I said, all
Good.
right. So I started investing in 2008, and it wasn't much. And this is where I started dabbling with like short-term trading. And I quickly found out, I was like, I'm making some wrong decisions, or I'm missing out on some things. It was like, I don't know, trying to plug a hole in a sinking ship, and you're unplugging one part to plug another, and water's still getting in. And I want to say once I knew I could start like making real money by just investing long term, that's when it really helped with just being comfortable. Because again, I started when the market was already crazy.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a worse scenario to jump in to the stock market. It wasn't the Great Depression, but it was, I guess, the Great Recession. But it still wasn't as bad.
Yeah, but recessions are where millionaires are made, right? And if
Correct.
you can establish a really solid investing practice, then that was like the best time to start.
Right.
However, you talked about two different things, and I just wanted to make sure that we clear it up for the audience. There is a difference between investing, which is growing your money for a long term, and then trading. It sounds
Mhm.
like you were trading initially, or do you still trade, or how much of it is trading versus investing?
I would say 99% of what I do is long term investing, and 1% is speculative, a little sprinkling on a little cherry on top or seasoning on the regular meal. But the meat and potatoes is always long term investing. And I think that works well for most investors. It helps because I've seen so many people make mistakes. Again, this goes back to having that front row seat.
Yes.
And I know when people first start, you figure you're not working with as much money. So how can I double this quicker? That's always that mindset. And I would like to challenge that for a lot of beginning investors and say, hey, it's better to start small and invest early and often than to sit here and keep trying to swing for a home run on a regular basis because it's harder than it seems. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. I am like the hella simple investing person. I like to set it and forget it.
Mhm.
I'm the index fund and chill girly. I'm not out here trying to beat the market, but I do want to make sure that I'm investing consistently and as much as possible. But I had to
Good,
get to
good.
that point, right? And it was hard because that was never modeled for me, and it wasn't modeled for you. However, you, like you said, had the advantage of having a front row seat. And not only did you have a front row seat to people like doing great things financially, you've seen all the hiccups and all the failures that people have made in investing or trying to trade or do these kind of things. What were some of the biggest things that were pivotal in the way that you thought, like from your customers' experiences, that was like, ooh,
Mm,
I'm definitely not going to do that, or this is something I
right.
really need to do?
Oh, we used to do this thing called the margin call list. So these are clients who borrow money to invest. So think of it as using a credit card, which you would have to pay interest on the balance. Plus, you're using that to invest in the stock market. So every morning, as a customer service gesture, just reach out to the clients on these lists and just let them know, hey, you have a margin call this morning. Just want to let you know you have a day or so to cover it, or it may be same day. But it was more
Mm-hmm.
to just let them know we're here for them, but
Mm-hmm.
you are playing with our money, basically, which is
You need to
crazy.
figure out what you need to do.
Yes, yes,
You need to
and to
add more
cover a margin
money, or you
call,
need to just close this out and count your
right?
losses. Yes.
Exactly. Yep, that's
Yes.
exactly what it is. To
Mm-hmm.
settle a margin call, you have to either deposit more funds, sell some stock, or maybe even deposit additional stock to bring the value of your account up, so you don't have an issue because you're basically getting close to this threshold. And there was one day I saw somebody, their margin call was $300,000,
Woo!
and they didn't cover it, so we had to sell them out. We had to sell in when we have to sell it out. That means we don't pick your favorite stock or your worst stock. We pick whatever it is to fill the margin call. We're not going to sit there and do a whole bunch of trades to do it, but it's to just secure the account
Mm-hmm.
basically and keep it secure. And the, this person they were able the next day to bring in a few $100,000, even though we'd already sold them out. And I was like, we're talking about some interesting amounts of money here that
Yeah.
people are investing with and people are risking. For them to think of the situation where it's better for them to borrow the money and invest it, they were willing to bet that much on that investment. So I was like, man, it just puts things in perspective, like the amount of
Mm-hmm.
risk certain people are willing to take. And I was like, this is all about being comfortable in this environment.
Wow. Wow. three hundred thousand
Yeah.
dollars, like that right there, is just giving
Yeah.
me heart palpitations. But then that shows that that's a whole nother landscape. But that also represents what's possible. Like
Hmm.
we didn't have that money growing up. I remember just seeing
Thank you.
$40,000 on my. That's how much I owed on my student loans, and not even being able to conceptualize that. But for
Right.
that to be somebody's reality, just put another couple thousand, a couple $100,000 in there. That is okay. Maybe I could get to that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something else seeing all of that.
Yeah.
And that's part of that front row seat and just knowing that, hey, I did not want to be on that margin call list. I already had an aversion to having a lot of credit or debt.
Hmm.
So I've always managed my credit pretty well to avoid situations like that. Never been much of a gambler other than little fantasy football type stuff, things that are negligible basically. But yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said though. Most of your money, 99.9% of your money, is in long term investments. And then you take this little 1% and you use that to do speculative like things,
Hmm.
which I think is a fantastic approach. Even up to like maybe 10%, you want
Right.
to bet it on a single stock or something like that. The problem that I have with most people is that they think investing is, they're like, oh, I got $10,000. What should I do with it? And I'm just like,
Right.
nah, first of all,
It's a bigger conversation.
yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything exciting. And so you're probably not going to do it. But at the end of the day, it's not about that. Wait until you have $10,000 to invest. It's those
Yeah.
everyday investments, right? It's that making
Yes.
sure that you're contributing to your retirement account, making sure you're contributing to your Roth IRA or whatever IRA you have, making sure you're putting something aside for your kids, whether it's a college fund or a brokerage account.
Yes,
Those small
yes.
things, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be $10. What can you do with $10? I want you to come to me and be like, what can I do with the $10 that I have consistently versus that $10,000? But I think that people we are so much more willing to bet that $10,000 than the
Hmm.
$10 consistently on these gambles.
It's so true.
And then they say, yeah, I don't invest in the stock market because that's just like gambling. But it's really not, right? Unless you
Yeah.
do approach it like that.
No, that's very true. And I've seen it plenty of times where they're like, "Oh, what, you a stockbroker?" That sends up a signal. They're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I need you to invest my money for me." And sometimes there's no action behind it. It's just because maybe they do think that it has to be this exorbitant amount. They're not willing to do the
Mm-hmm.
smaller activities. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people, even if it's small, start. The market doesn't wait for anybody. It didn't wait for me to learn about investing in 2007 so that I could be ready in 2008. The market was already going where it went in 2008.
Exactly.
That's when I joined, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I'm like, dang. In hindsight, I just wish I knew.
What is the biggest thing that you wish you would have known in 2008?
I would say that buying and holding, there's nothing wrong with buying and holding. Nothing
Yes.
wrong, because I was chasing like little money. I was looking for the small victories when honestly I should have just been continuing to sow money and building just that muscles, the
Mm-hmm.
reflexes to just keep going, because the bottom of the market was March of 2009. You could have owned anything, just anything, and held it, and you would have at least made 100%. It was crazy. You can look at an S&P 500 chart in March 2009. You're like, oh my goodness. It's even crazy to see where the SP is right now and to look back then and be like, it doesn't make sense. We lived through all of that. Wow. And interest rates were crazy low. The environment was set. I didn't see it or realize it at the time. There's no way I would have known.
Oh my God. I'm thinking back to what was I doing in March 2009? I'm going to
Right.
tell you what happened in March 2009. I was in nursing school. I just spent $80,000 on 1 year of nursing school because I did an accelerated program.
Whew.
And I'm sitting in an assembly room, and the director of the hospital that hired a lot of people was just, we ain't got no jobs for y'all.
Stop.
So,
No.
out of a class of 83 nurses that just took on $80,000 in debt for 1 year, only 3 people had jobs at
Nah.
graduation.
No. We would have to
Yes. And
square up.
luckily, I was one of them. However, it was a crazy time. But I'm thinking back, dang, I wish I would have
Wow.
known about investing then because
Yeah.
I would have been straight going into that first
Yeah.
nursing job.
Yes. And that's mind blowing. First, when you said 80 grand, first and foremost, that's a lot. And I feel like, and I'm not in the nursing profession, but I always assume that there's always vacancies. There's always a need, and maybe the need fluctuates,
Yes.
but I feel like there's always a need. So for them to say that there wasn't any jobs, it's jarring for me.
Yeah, so the thing that's unique about nursing is we get paid pretty high salary to get trained, but because of the
Mm,
Bay Area, our rates are really higher. So we're
mm,
going to attract experienced nurses to fill those roles. So there's not
mm.
so much of an incentive of paying a new grad nurse that doesn't have experience who you basically have to double pay. So you paying her that nurse to learn, plus you're paying the nurse to train her. Versus like when times are
Mm.
tough, you're just going to pay that experienced person to do the job, right? You don't
Got it.
necessarily have to bring in new grad nurses to fill those vacancies because jobs
Mm,
here are so much in demand. Not saying that there aren't always openings, but as a new grad with no experience, it's really hard to get placed in this market because
mm.
it's super competitive.
I see that particular
Yeah.
market too, because
Yes.
I know a travel nurse, and this is amazing. It's like she would, yeah. And I was like, man, that is a cool lifestyle. You just pick up and go and live in the city for could be a year or so, and then move on to another. So
Exactly. Exactly. It is a cool life. I actually became a nurse to to do travel nursing, to move around
Mm,
and all this kind of stuff. But I became a nurse in the San Francisco Bay Area and I landed a job at one of the highest paying hospitals in the world. So I
oh,
wasn't
wow.
incentivized to leave. And
Right.
so I've been stuck here. Okay. But anyway, so you were at this financial firm
All right.
for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And so you're no longer there. And so did that immediately help you transition into starting financially present, or how did that happen? How did you start this platform?
It did in a way because it
Hmm.
helped me just get used to the rhythm of doing leading branch seminars or just talking to literally anyone because it was you're on the phone regularly or anyone could walk through that door. You're setting up appointments and things like that. But I transitioned to a different type of consulting during that time, and I found out that like I just really enjoy the education because in giving people that education, then at some point they won't need you. It's the whole idea of teaching a person to fish
Yeah.
because I see so many other programs out there where it's like people are tied to maybe a particular individual.
Hmm.
And if something happened to that person, you have a single point of failure. But I'd
Hmm.
rather teach people and help them learn because once you have the education, nobody can take that from you. So you can take
Exactly.
that and you can upgrade it. You can just keep it. You know what I mean? But I regularly just I'd help friends out or someone would ask me. And then there was another point where I started teaching online to students through different platform. And someone said, you probably should just, so you don't have to teach live, just record it. And I was like, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. And I was like, I don't want to just do it anyhow. I need to do it a certain way. So that took me on this journey of why am I really doing this? And what does this really mean to me? And when I help people or talk to people about finances, I'm definitely a finance nerd. It's nothing, it doesn't bore me. I have Bloomberg on pretty much all day, every day, except weekends.
Well, the market is closed.
I know, listen to finance podcasts and things like that. Laughing at some of the corny jokes they say that sometimes will go over other people's heads. I'm like, okay, I'm in a weird space now, but it's something that I enjoy. And I just try to share it to people and with them so that they just understand, come on in, the water's fine. That's really what it is. Somebody's got to be here.
And who is your target audience? Who do you really love helping?
I love helping many groups of people. I find that students, just younger students, I would say adults, teenagers into adults, so high school and up is really where I feel like you can get in front of the mistakes or in front of the whole I want to trade versus I should probably just invest regularly. And not to knock trading. Trading is okay, but I just know that you can actually have both if you
Hmm.
have the right type of discipline in the space. So that's a lot of what I try to help people understand and just help just usher them through this landscape. Because I tell people it's almost like you're at an amusement park
Hmm.
and it's all types of rides you can ride. And I'm just that person that's been working at the amusement park and just giving people directions. I'm like, oh, what do you like? Oh, merry-go-round's over there, basically. So you want the slingshot one? Okay, that's around back. That's literally what I do, and I help people so they have the confidence in this amusement park.
And how did you come up with the term financially present? What does that mean to you?
It actually means a lot. I
Hmm.
try to tell people that it's for me. There, my faith and my family is the most important thing for me, and finance is just the language that I speak. So if you're secure in your finances, you can be present in other areas of your life that matter more. So that's what matters for me, and I want that for anyone I work with, basically.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I think too. I love what I do as a nurse, but I know that if I'm not in a good financial place, I can't show up like I need to for my family and for my patients. Like I'm a better
Hmm.
patient advocate. I'm a better mom for being financially stable.
Yes.
And I think when we talk about money all the time, people are always like, oh, he's thinking about money. It's not about
Hmm.
that. It's about using it as a tool to be able to live the
Yes.
life that you really, really want.
Hmm.
And so I think people underestimate just that sense of security that
Yes.
being like on a good page financially brings you. It just enhances your life.
Yes,
I
I
love that.
agree. There are certain things where I'm like, I just know that I won't have to pay someone to teach me this because I learned it or I understand it, or
Mhm.
I'm in a position where, hey, I'm not spending time doing all of this market research. I'm a nerd, so I remember and understand some of this, but then that means I'm not focused on day trading or tied to my computer or my phone. I can go coach my son's baseball team. I can be in my daughter's basketball practice. Like, all of these other things are important for me because the time frame we're in, they're young, and I just want to be there for them in this particular way. And money's no good if if I'm not here to help them understand it. Or at the end of the day, I feel that it's just important to just make sure that they understand that in knowing about money, they know that money isn't everything. So
Yes,
that's what
I
I
love
teach them.
that. And how do you teach people to become more financially present?
Yeah, so I have all types of things that I do. I do some, I'm trying to do less, but in the sense of I'm doing more speaking engagements and focusing on that, speaking to
Hmm.
youth and young adults and different venues. I have online coursework and ebooks that I have, and working on getting a book out there as well, a physical book versus an ebook. So
Yeah.
that's all still, it's all still in the kitchen basically. It's not ready to come out yet. But yes, so all of those different services through financiallypresent.com, basically.
And if people want to work with you, how do they reach out to you?
I would say the best way is info@financiallypresent.com. You'll be able to reach me there. That's my email. I'm on Instagram and other platforms as well with the hashtag or the handle of at financially present.
Oh, you got it on all the platforms, huh? Go
I'm trying.
ahead.
I'm trying to slow down.
This has been an amazing conversation. I love that you are like super like finance nerd, all the things, the Bloombergs and all that stuff. I'm just, I
Yeah.
like it, but you love it. So
I
I
know
will just
it's.
defer people to you. Like, you, this is
Hey, I'm
your
here.
thing.
I'm here. I'm in that amusement park.
So make sure you check out Financially Present on everywhere, every social platform, apparently. Info at financiallypresent.com. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Nasima. I appreciate it.
Of course.